was at the kitchen table. I'll never forget it. It's a very, very vivid memory. I opened this envelope, and the opening line is, "To our son's heart recipient."
Every year, the lives of thousands of Canadians are saved or improved because of organ and tissue transplants. Some individuals live in hope that a donor will one day be found. Others die, simply waiting for a match.
In 2019, more than 3,000 organ transplants were performed in Canada. Approximately 60% came from deceased donors.
Each organ transplant story has two starkly different faces. One miraculous, the other tragic. A story of joy and new hope against one of grieving and loss. Behind these are stories of real people with real families. John Dickhout and Rick Prashaw are among them. The Gifts of Life series peers into both sides of the organ donation story.
It was pretty crazy. It's a different kind of surreal. When I look back now, it's almost like those almost 3 years of illness were this weird dream. For those past 2.5 years or whatever, I was freezing all the time. Just, I could never get warm. Partly we moved back from the Philippines, having lived there for years, to cold Canada, but I didn't have blood pumping through my veins as it's supposed to. Everything else goes kaflooey when your heart's not working right. And now I was roasting in this bed, so I'm trying to communicate to them. I'm barely making sense. And they could tell I was getting frustrated trying to tell them something I wanted. So they brought me a little pad of paper and like a prescription note size or whatever, and a pen, and I wrote out "hot." When I saw it later, you could barely tell there was something resembling a circle and a bunch of other sticks. But anyway, Kristen, I think it says "hot," and I went with a pretty sarcastic face. Finally, they removed the blankets, but that was a sign of like things to come.
I think it was about 2 months after I was home, and I was really regularly trying to exercise, and at that time that just meant walking around our small home. And I started walking up and down the stairs within the first couple of weeks of being home. And I think it was about less than 2 months, and Lynn was upstairs and I had been downstairs, and Lynn heard this thump, 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 thump. And she's, "What, John? What? What happened?" I said, I ran up the stairs. She thought I had fallen down. But I decided to try to run up them, and I haven't really stopped since then. It was remarkable. I felt, and Lynn will tell you, within hours of me waking up after surgery, I had color back in my face, and some of the things you don't think about, but not all. The heart obviously is pumping blood to all the organs of the body, and oxygen. So when it's not working right, nothing is working right. And so my kidneys were failing. I was on dialysis for a short while in recovery. It's just a day or so, or half a day. But one of the things I hadn't thought about is, like, the hair on my arms and legs and stuff had almost completely disappeared. It just wasn't growing. And I hadn't seen a vein for a couple of years because they're just, there's no blood pumping. So I remember a couple of nights in the hospital shortly after, I woke up, and I was laying next to Lynn was sitting at the bed next to me, and I said, "Can you feel that? Can you feel the bed shaking?" For me, it felt like the whole bed was just because my heart was beating so hard. I hadn't felt anything like that for so long, and it was amazing how fast I started feeling better again, and better than I had for 3 or so years pre-transplant. So
one of the other interesting things, I guess, that consumed me early days of getting home, I had a real desire to know if anything I could about my donor. I was consumed with gratitude for my family and all the support they've given, and of course for the doctors and nurses. But I was overwhelmed with gratitude for this entity, this person. I knew there was somebody out there who, of course, unbeknownst to that person, but had made a decision at some point in their life to be an organ donor. And through their passing had given me my life back. So I had this immense desire to thank them. So I guess it was, oh boy, it was about 2 weeks, I think I can remember my first iteration of my thank you note was like February 16th. So it was about 3 weeks, or 2 weeks after being home. And I drafted this 4.5-page letter with family photos. Said, and I mean, right off the top, I said, "Hi, my name is John Dickhout. I'm 52 years old." Blah, blah, blah. And I just want to, and I sent it to my post-transplant coordinator, and she looked at me and said, "John, you can't say any of that." So try again. And I said, "Okay, well, if there's stuff in there I can't say, I want to vet it. I don't want a bunch of black, I want to rewrite." So on the third iteration, was about a week later, February 25th, I finally got the final letter in the mail to send a thank you to my donor family. I have come to find out a lot of transplant recipients, organ recipients, have a hard time writing that letter. How can you write down on paper what I was feeling at that time? But I'm wondering whether you had that experience of, and the way it works is from the recipient side is I send this letter, the final vetted letter, to my transplant coordinator, who officially gives it her okie dokie, and then it goes to the Trillium Gift of Life Network, who then I understand pass it on to the donor family. But I'm curious how that looks on your side of the.
Right. Really, again, you're grieving. It's the loss. You're preparing for a celebration of life, and families coming. All those things are happening, but you get curious. There's always that piece of this story, this life-giving piece of the story. So in some ways I think it's over, but I should have known. I just should have known with this kid that it would never be over. The streak of life and mischief and fun and positive and everything.
We knew that we thought he was going to have his organs donated. They had to confirm it. And 3 weeks after, or less than 3 weeks, Trillium Gift of Life, TGLAN, that thanks to the generosity of your son, an adult female with extensive liver damage received Adam's liver, 2 adult women with end-stage renal disease got his kidneys, an adult male with irreversible heart disease received a life-saving heart transplant, providing him/her a second chance of life. Now, that third paragraph is the most interesting paragraph. First of all, you cry and you're happy, and it's just amazing that your kid has saved 4 lives. But the thing that leapt out off the page to me was the last paragraph. First of all, that a man got the heart. That meant the world to me. I just thought about my kid's transition and who he wanted to be, and he had this heart and a man. It was perfect. It was so perfect. But even better is the funny mistake that Trillium makes is it's obviously a generic letter that they should have decided, is it him or is it her? They don't. They put both in. It's so perfect that I just think it's Adam's humor. It's a sense of humor.
Not long after that family day experience, that Suzanne calls and says, we have a letter from a heart recipient. The most amazing, heart-filled letter, joy to the brim, optimism, a little bit of humor. Talked about, that he felt like, somebody had just ripped his heart apart and said, oh yeah, I actually did, with this cleaved chest. And but it was the optimism, it was the joy, it was, I'm going to vow to live. And he filled in a lot. It was just that vowing to live for himself and for the donor, and to the brim and over with gratitude is what just I was left with. It was really overwhelming.
Dearest donor family, I'd like to share my story and tell you of the extraordinarily significant role you've played in my life. Coming to the realization that I couldn't continue to live much longer the way I was, the day came when I started to seriously think transplant was indeed the best solution for me. How can simple words do justice to explain to anyone how their choice has given me the most significant, life-giving, perspective-changing gift of my life? My solemn promise to you is that the man I was before my transplant is but a fraction of the man I will become, and much of my driving force from this day forward will be thinking of you and your lost family member to make you all proud of your loved one's decision to be a donor.
So that takes us to April 30th, when I received an envelope, this envelope actually, and this is exactly the envelope that I would get, or the exact kind of envelope. I would get all of my notifications and reminders for upcoming appointments, and I had a lot of them back in those early days of post-transplant. And I was at the kitchen table. I'll never forget it. It's a very, very vivid memory. I opened this envelope, and the opening line is, "To our son's heart recipient." And I did a lot of this for about 10 minutes before I could read it to clear the tears from my eyes. Many, many organ recipients never find whatever the need or the desire, or simply how to put into words to send the letter in the first place. But of those that do, it's only a small percentage of those that ever get a letter back. I was gobsmacked and just so happy and great and full of gratitude when I just even got the letter. And then when I read it, it was glorious. It was so full of joy and love, and the thing that was very humbling for me was the gratitude that I felt from my donor family that I had reached out to them. I couldn't believe it. I said, no, I'm the grateful one.
To our son's heart recipient, I am your donor's dad. I will begin this letter and his mom will finish it. When it became clear that we could not have the miracle we wished, we had to step back and let other miracles occur. You referred to your now strong and love-filled heart. I hope the news on your donor confirm how strong and full of love it is. His love and strength, yours, and are indeed a good match.
I read the letter over and over and realized there's a lot of little clues in this letter, because while both our letters that we exchanged initially were anonymous, they seem to let more into the letter, that the more description of the donor in the letter that the donor family replied to me. So I heard about this young man who had some struggles, who had surgeries, brain surgeries because of seizures, was a avid Habs fan, which made my heart smile a little, and was a goalie. So I just went to the search engines and punched a number of words into the Google machine. In fact, I think it was young man, goalie, and celebration of life. Did I miss anything there? I think that was it.
January 24th.
The January 24th, 2016, of course.
And so the very first hit said, I'm 99.9% sure I've just found my donor. So I devised this plan. I registered for a Facebook page under the name, first name Heart, second name Recipient. And I sent an anonymous note to Rick Prashaw, my donor's dad.
And if you'd like to read it, it's right there.
Sure. and just to, again, some backstory there is that it's just dawning on me that likely we were on Adam's Facebook together for different reasons. I was on that to being a follower of Adam, to reconnect with all of his posts that some of them had caused me to shake my head. And, I was getting all these, shall we say, interesting requests from Adam's friends and his organizations. He was too shy to go on stage for this drag troupe to some of his friends, but he handed out programs. And so my niece Claire one night had called me just before this happened and said, Uncle Rick, your Facebook is a porn site. And I said, what? Go look at it right now. So I went to look at it right now, and I said, Claire, it's not a porn site. It's spicy. It's spicier than it ever was. I have more followers than I ever had. And these were all Adam's friends. So I just clicked, got the heart recipient, and I forgot the next day. And so again, grief and busyness. And so it was the next morning, laying on the pillow. It seems to be a favorite place for Adam to, I just have to say what Adam does. And we were incessant texting. Sometimes I get a text right down the top of my head. I've had several of those that are clearly Adam's language. And then this one was a voice, and it said, Dad, heart recipient. And it was like with the tone of his duh, Dad, and you dummy, heart recipient. I said, well, yeah. So I went and I opened it up, and I was about to respond when I read that he had sent me a message. Dear Mr. Prashaw, I think I am the incredibly fortunate and eternally grateful recipient of the only person I've ever considered my true hero, your son's heart. On Thursday, April 30th, I received one of the greatest gifts I've been given since getting my new heart on January 25th. A beautiful, thoughtful, gracious letter from my donor family. There were enough clues in the letter, and I was so moved and intrigued that I felt an immediate connection, and I felt the need to take a chance of exploring that further. If you're interested in connecting, perhaps simply via Facebook or email, please just let me know. If you'd rather not, please do not feel any pressure to do so. I completely and absolutely appreciate and understand your decision, and I will certainly respect your wishes. I will not reach out to you again other than anonymously via Trillium. I hope to hear from you either way. Take good care, my friend, with much respect and friendship, your son's heart recipient.
I'm just going to clarify one point. I think on your note, it shows a date and time that I actually sent that. It might not be when you read it, but.
That's right. You did. Monday, May the 2nd. Monday at 2:24 p.m.
Okay, so I'm going to read Rick's reply, which, well, he seems to recall it was the next day. So this is a post I received in response on Thursday, May 5th, 2016 at 9:15 a.m.
More than 36 hours. Okay.
So here we go. And I love this part. It says, hi. So, on Facebook, you get these little things come up in a little bubble. There's a bubble that says, hi. And then there's another bubble underneath that says, I clicked send too fast there. It's the favorite thing Rick has ever written to me. I laughed and cried before I could read anything else so much because I thought, okay, we're going to be friends. I love that for some reason. I clicked send too fast there. And then next bubble. which is also my second favorite line. This feels like a meeting at midnight in an underground parking garage. LOL. I accepted the friendship request a few days ago, running out the door, and promptly in the hectic space I find myself in now, selling condo and more, promptly forgot about it. I believe my son sent me a reminder this morning. I am keeping this all in the same paragraph, as anytime I try to move to a new paragraph, it sends my incomplete message. I am replying right away because I am happy on my own to have this conversation. I suspected all along we would, and I suspected all along we will meet when it is right for all. I will copy and share your message with the mom. Again, strongly suspecting she too will be eager to open the channels of communication. I hope all is good with you, health and life-wise. Your desire to lead a long life and your plans to are so gratifying. I guess we here should just confirm you are the recipient of Adam's heart. I suspect you have figured that out via social media or obits or a particular Twitter posting of mine cheering organ donations. Am I close? Please call me Rick, and I am sure we can navigate through and around Trillium to the degree we wish, and is always good for you. Adam loved surprises, intrigue, and making things happen, so he is all good with this.
Dear whoever you are, you have my son's heart. Of course, I want to know you. And it is pathetic that you only have one friend on Facebook.
And that it was, I guess that day was when it was made official, and we started down the real road that was to come.
Mm-hmm. And that would lead me to get in the car in June at the end of a Tigers Jays series in Detroit to slip over to Welland and knock on your door. I think I had Dallas with me. Yeah, that was an amazing morning in terms of the friendship and actually me putting a face, a person, a story to the entity.
Yes.
Yeah.
Lynn made a comment, something to the effect, I'm a nurse and I have a stethoscope. And before she got it out of her mouth, I think.
She just got, would you? And I said I would. And it's one of the times that it's a good reminder, in the whole grief journey that you think you can predict these moments, when it's going to be always sort of mixed, and you might expect some tears, and there wasn't any there. There was just a happiness, a gladness, a joy. The heart was pounding. It was racing. It was so loud. And I remember just saying, Adam, I didn't call you an old man. I just said an older man. Slow down. You can slow down now for this guy, When the tears hit that day, it was on the 401 around Kingston. I just felt this overwhelming need to pull over and have my good cry about that incredible, experience.
Join us for the fourth and final episode of the Gifts of Life video podcast series, No Greater Superhero, My Organ Donor.